My mom canceled my wedding, saying, "Your card got declined again, honey." She whispered it loud enough for everyone at the restaurant to hear, right after announcing she wouldn't be paying for my wedding. I'm Emma, 26 years old, working as a junior graphic designer at a small marketing firm. I'd been saving every penny for 3 years to plan my dream wedding. Nothing extravagant, just something beautiful and meaningful. My parents had promised to help with the venue costs, and I'd been counting on that promise. I wasn't asking for a mansion wedding or a designer dress, but I thought family meant something different to them. I've always been the responsible one in my family. While my younger sister Chloe gets everything handed to her on a silver platter, I'm expected to figure things out on my own. Good grades? Emma's just naturally smart. Got a job right after college? Emma's so independent. Meanwhile, Chloe failed 3 classes and still got a new car for her birthday. I thought my wedding would be different, that this time I'd be celebrated, that my family would finally show up for me. But sitting in that fancy restaurant, surrounded by aunts and uncles who were supposed to be helping finalize wedding details, I realized how wrong I was. If you've ever been pushed aside by family, subscribe right now and tell me where you're watching from, because what happened next changed everything. It started when Mom cleared her throat and tapped her wine glass. "Everyone, I have an announcement about Emma's wedding." My heart jumped. Finally, I thought. Finally, she's going to tell everyone how proud she is. "We have decided the money we set aside is going to Chloe's graduation trip to Europe instead." The table went silent. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "It's an emergency," Mom continued, not even looking at me. "She needs this experience before she starts her career." "Mom," I said quietly, "what about the venue deposit? The caterer?" "Emma's always been so independent," she told the table like I wasn't sitting right there. "She doesn't really need our help the way Chloe does." My Aunt Susan nodded knowingly. "You're so practical, Emma. You'll figure it out." I tried to stay calm, but I've already put down deposits. The vendors are booked. The invitations went out. "Oh, about that," Mom said, cutting into her steak. "I already called the venue and canceled. Got most of the deposit back." The fork slipped from my hand and clattered onto my plate. "You what?" "It's a lesson in financial responsibility," she said. "You can't just expect people to fund your circus." That's when Uncle Mike laughed. Actually laughed. Kids these days think weddings have to cost a fortune. I felt my face burn as everyone around the table nodded in agreement. Some relatives started checking their phones, suddenly very interested in anything but looking at me. Within 10 minutes, half the table had made excuses to leave early. I sat there in silence as my family finished their expensive dinner, talking about Chloe's trip, like my shattered wedding plans were just an appetizer they'd already forgotten. The humiliation was just beginning. 2 weeks later, I found out through Instagram that my parents were throwing Chloe an engagement party. She wasn't even engaged. It was for her pre-engagement glow because she'd been dating some guy for 4 months. I wasn't invited to help plan it. I wasn't even invited, period. Then came the grocery store incident. I was buying ramen and discount bread, my new wedding budget diet, when I heard Mom's voice behind me. "Oh, Emma's wedding was getting too extravagant anyway. She had to step in and be the adults." Mrs. Rodriguez glanced at me with pity. Such a shame when young people don't live within their means. I wanted to disappear into the frozen food aisle. But the final straw came when Dad called me that Sunday. "Emma, honey, we need a favor. Can you design Chloe's graduation party invitations? Since you're so good at that stuff." "You want me to work for free?" "It's family," he said. "Besides, consider it practice for when you start your own little business." My own little business? Like my job wasn't real. Like my skills didn't matter unless they benefited Chloe. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my fiancé, Jake, surrounded by vendor contracts and payment plans. My laptop screen showed our shrinking savings account. "Maybe we should just elope," Jake said softly. "No." The word came out sharper than I intended. "I'm not running away. Not anymore." "What are you thinking?" I looked at him, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled. I'm thinking they don't know me as well as they think they do. What they didn't know was that I'd been freelancing design work on weekends for the past 2 years. Logos, wedding invitations, business cards. All the little projects that added up. While they saw me as the struggling junior designer who needed their help, I'd been quietly building an emergency fund. What they also didn't know was that I'd been screenshotting every conversation, saving every broken promise, documenting every time they chose Chloe over me. But the thing they really didn't know about were the phone calls I'd been making. While they thought I was crying into my pillow, I was actually planning something they'd never see coming. Jake's Aunt Patricia had been quietly watching our family drama unfold. She'd built her own event planning business from nothing after her family betrayed her 20 years ago. When she heard what happened, she made me an offer I couldn't refuse. "Let me help you throw a wedding that'll make them eat their words," she said over coffee. But here's the catch. We did it completely without them. No invitations, no updates, nothing. While my parents posted photos of Chloe's shopping spree for Europe with proud parents hashtags, Patricia and I were having secret meetings with vendors. We toured alternative venues, recalculated budgets, and slowly built something beautiful. One evening, I stopped by my parents' house to pick up some old photo albums and overheard Mom on the phone with Dad. "Emma will just have to learn," she was saying. "Maybe this will teach her not to dream so big." Should we get Chloe something for her pre-trip celebration? I was thinking those diamond earrings she liked. They were planning another party, another celebration where I'd be invisible. The invitation arrived 3 days later. Heavy cardstock, elegant font, the kind of design I would have made for my own wedding if they hadn't destroyed those plans. "You're invited to celebrate Chloe's European adventure. Please bring a homemade dessert to share." Of course, even at Chloe's party, I was expected to work. But this time, I had a different plan. I showed up to Chloe's pre-trip celebration with a beautiful cake and an even beautifuler announcement. The whole family was there, gathered in my parents' dining room, gushing over Chloe's travel itinerary and her new Louis Vuitton luggage, paid for with my wedding money. "Emma made the most amazing cake," Mom announced, like she was doing me a favor by acknowledging my existence. "Thanks," I said, setting it down on the table. "I have some news to share too." "Oh, did you finally set a new date? Something more realistic this time?" "Actually," I pulled out my phone, "Jake and I got married last weekend." The room went dead silent. "What?" Mom's voice cracked. "Beautiful ceremony at the Botanical Gardens. Small, intimate, perfect." I scrolled through the photos Patricia had taken. "Here's us cutting the cake. Here's the first dance. Oh, and here's the venue you said I couldn't afford." Dad grabbed my phone, staring at the pictures. "How did you... with what money?" "You taught me to be independent, so I learned to depend on myself instead of promises." "But we're your family," Mom whispered. "We should have been there." "Family shows up. You chose not to." Chloe finally spoke up. "Emma, I didn't know." "Of course you didn't know. You never ask about anything that isn't about you." I looked around the room at their shocked faces. For years, I dreamed of this moment. Not the cruelty, but the clarity. The moment they realized they'd push me too far. The wedding was beautiful. Patricia helped plan it. Jake's family was there. Our real friends were there. People who actually love us. "Patricia?" Dad asked. "Jake's aunt, the one who owns the event planning company you said was too fancy for people like us." I smiled. Turns out she specializes in helping people plan weddings when their families let them down. Mom started crying, not the pretty tears she cried at Chloe's graduations, but the ugly, desperate kind. "We can fix this. We can have another ceremony." "No." The word felt powerful in my mouth. "You can't fix years of choosing her over me. You can't fix making me feel like I had to earn love while handing it to her for free." I picked up my purse and headed for the door. "Emma, please," Dad called after me. I turned back one last time. "Enjoy the cake. I made it myself, just like everything else in my life." That was 8 months ago. Jake and I just celebrated our first Thanksgiving without family drama. Just the two of us, Patricia, and some friends who became our chosen family. My parents call sometimes, but I don't answer. They sent a Christmas card to our new address. I don't know how they got it, but I threw it away, unopened. Chloe got back from Europe and moved back in with them. Turns out, traveling the world doesn't magically create a personality or work ethic. She's still unemployed, still expecting them to solve her problems. My design business is growing. Turns out when you're not constantly doubting yourself because your family treats you like you're not good enough, you can actually accomplish amazing things. I finally learned that family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up when it matters. Their silence doesn't hurt me anymore. It freed me to build the life I actually wanted. If you've ever had to stand up to family betrayal, hit subscribe and tell me your story. Where are you watching from? Drop it below. I always check. Your story deserves to be heard. Share it with us, because sometimes the family that matters most is the one you choose for yourself.